what are your thoughts on why this is kind of this idea of like universal access and adapting and hacking consumer products? Why is it still kind of an invisible issue?
I think it's just invisible because people just don't know. I mean, they don't know it's happening. It's not that they're choosing not to know. And I think it's also because a lot of these solutions are very private and very personal and done for one particular person, perhaps by that same person, right? And the person is just trying to find a better way to navigate life. They're not trying to necessarily change the world for everybody, although many of these solutions wind up changing the world for a great many people, right? As with any grassroots endeavor, I tend to think that perhaps it's because you get that one innovation that's taking place in one house somewhere in Severna Park, Maryland, right? And it may in fact help somebody in Oakland, California, right? But how do you connect these people together? It's not the easiest thing. Now, we have tools to enable that to take place. But until that innovation, which helped that one person in that one place, can be commercialized, that people just don't know about it. But we don't know that that person in Maryland once had great difficulty trying to reach objects on the top shelf of her house, but now she does it just fine. So.
And as our country changes, as we have a growing older adult population, we're living longer, you discussed that, we're going to have more needs for adaptive technology. What are some considerations there for people at this event, people who are fellow hackers and fellow communication technology folks?
Considerations? Well, the first consideration is the likelihood that it will happen to all of us at some point or another. That's the most important one. And that designing things for people who are have different abilities or less abilities is really designing prototypes for what our future will be. So that's the principal need right away. That's kind of the immediate one. From a technical perspective, I mean, technology changes so quickly anymore, right? And you just walk around the floor here at South by Southwest and you see so many examples. And my mind immediately goes to, well, how could that help so-and-so or help so-and-so or help so-and-so? So one thing that I would like just every technologist to maybe think about going forward is maybe consider someone in their lives who may have benefited from some form of accommodation or access of what they're working on, and just maybe introduce that conceptually into what they're doing. They don't, from that you start to build a champion. Right? You don't necessarily have to go and be like, we need to do this. I've tried. It doesn't work, all the time. But maybe going and saying, like, listen, I've seen people who can't use their hands, who can't see, who can't do whatever, and they really struggle with our product. They really struggle with it. And there's something wrong with that. Right? And just introducing, maybe it can be 5% better. Maybe it can be 10% better. Maybe it can be 3% better. But just that proverbial, just give the rock a little bit of a push and make it roll on its own at some point. I don't know how else to get started. I know the one where you don't do this is just go around setting mandates, because it will automatically be met by resistance. And in the bigger corporate landscape, the mandates run up against regulations. They run up against corporate guidelines and a number of things. And I know from having worked in healthcare and pharma and law and that a lot of times prolonging the innovation or propagating the innovation into what you're doing at a product level means having many, many discussions and trying to be very persuasive. So I'd say, to answer your question, which I'll do now, it's really about improving the discussion, persuasion, conversation skills more than anything else.
And that persuasion, from your perspective, has to happen in the private sector. It's market-driven, consumer-driven.
Both. It'll be consumer-driven, and I think what we're seeing now is that the market is recognizing that, and the market is beginning to respond to that. And you're seeing really productive ways in which, like I mentioned, Share My OBCs app, which is now being used by people all over the country, all over the world, right? And that was invented for one young girl with a brain tumor. But when you find that you've found something that works very well, that helps people to retain literacy skills or recover dormant literacy skills, or maybe learn literacy skills from scratch, you start to think like there may be other people like this. Maybe not someone with a brain tumor, but someone with a learning disability. and then you form a little connection there. And that's when you have enough of these connections, you start to build the market for it.